Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, bend your knees and your elbows, and look and see if everybody is doing it too, just like you. Stop bobbing up and down with your arms to the side, then flap them up and down like a butterfly, and look and see if everybody is doing it too, just like you. And if we all do the same, we'll all be together, moving around as one. And if we all do it now, we'll all be together, having a whole lot of fun, just like you.
Hello everyone! Hello! Welcome to the Barnes Children's Literature Festival online at home. Today we've got a real treat for you. We have got a Carnegie Medal winning, Guardian Prize winning, fantastic author, screenwriter, all-round amazing guy, including one of my all-time favourite books, Millions. Oh, it's just a fantastic event for you. Keep your questions coming in. We'll do a little Q&A near the end. It's Frank Cottrell-Boyce!
Hi, how are you all doing? Hello to all those people who are saying hello to. I can see all your hellos in the side there. Beatrice and Sashin and Sarah Dudman, how are you doing? We're here to talk about robots, and we talk about robots, not talk. We've got a robot with us. This is Eric, and we're going to talk about why I wrote a book about Eric today. I'm going to tell you a story, first of all, about where this book came from. I lost my umbrella on the tube in London, and I went down to the Lost Property Office. Oh, someone's saying hello from Sydney in Australia. How do you do? And I went down to the Lost Property Office to ask if they had my umbrella. And the Lost Property Office in London Tube is pretty huge. Can we have the first slide, Richard? Can we see what?
Oh dear.
All right, okay, that's too quickly. It's huge. There was lots, and it was like an Aladdin's cave. There were millions and millions of different things in it, and astounding things had been lost. Amazing things had been lost, and I did just feel like Aladdin in the film going into that cave, and every single lost thing seemed to be a story waiting to be told. Do we have a slide? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I'll just crack on with the story. Okay, so. And I thought about what kind of amazing things could be lost there in the tube, or anywhere indeed. So can you see this? This is the lost property from one London tube office. Can you see how many things are lost? Extraordinary things are lost. Like, for instance, can we have the next slide? Can we have the next slide? That is umbrellas. That's just umbrellas. I'd lost one umbrella. That is umbrellas. Anyone who loses their umbrella never asks to get it back. So the London Underground is just full of umbrellas, all neatly labelled like this. But it's not just umbrellas. Let's have the next slide. Can you see what this is? Can everyone see what this is? Boxes and boxes of false teeth. Amazing. And that isn't even the most amazing thing, because look at this. What's the next one? Crutches. Like, what happens on the tube? Is it miracles? People leave their crutches behind. They get onto the tube and they can't walk, and then they get off and suddenly they can. Amazing. So that made me think there were hundreds. That's all the slides. Thank you. That made me think that there were hundreds and hundreds of stories to be told. And what would happen if you found something really extraordinary in the Lost Property Office? So I imagined my hero, who's called Alfie, going to the Lost Property Office in the airport and finding something completely extraordinary, which is a robot. And I thought about this robot because there was a robot. There was a robot, a huge and magnificent robot that was built in 1922 by a guy called Captain Roberts. And the robot's name is Eric. Can we see Eric? He's truly magnificent. Can we get Eric big up on the screen? Can you see how beautiful he is? He's amazing. He was built in the 1920s. No one had ever seen anything like this. People were bowled over by it. People queued up to get their selfies taken with it. He toured the world. Everyone wanted to meet him. He could stand up, he could sit down, he could wave, he could say hello, he could talk to you. An astounding thing. And so he was a big star. And then just before the Second World War, he just disappeared. He completely disappeared. And I love those little gaps in history where something disappears and you think, well, what happened there? What story could I tell there? So it seemed to me that the most exciting thing you could possibly find in lost property would be a giant robot like Eric. He's a real robot. So I'm going to read you the little bit where Alfie has just found Eric and taken him home for the first time. And he's very excited to find out what Eric could possibly do. All the amazing things that this robot might be able to do. Because if you found a robot like that, what would you think it could do? You know when you get a new phone or something and you just want to rip the box open right there and then, and you're so excited you don't even read the instructions because you want to find out all the things it can do? That's what I was like when I got Eric home. He looked like the kind of robot that could shoot lasers from his eyes, the kind of robot that could shoot bullets from his fingers or transform himself like a transformer into some kind of magical vehicle. He was my robot and he was my obedient servant. I said, Eric, unleash your powers. There was a long pause, a whir of cogs, and the sound of a mechanical brain thinking. And then he said, I'm sorry, I don't understand that question. You're my obedient servant. Tell me what you can do. So Eric said, I can perform a range of household chores. For instance, I could sweep the floor or iron the clothes. Iron the clothes? I thought I'd found Iron Man. In fact, I'd found Ironing Man. I can welcome guests. We never have any guests. I can answer the telephone. Nobody ever answers the telephone. I can prepare a light snack. Well, if you're hoping for laser-firing eyes or bullet-firing fingers, a light snack is pretty disappointing. But it is a snack. I can prepare a cucumber sandwich. A cucumber sandwich? That's not a snack. A cucumber sandwich is just a way of hiding cucumber. I can prepare eggs. Eggs could be good, I thought. So I filled a pan full of water and handed Eric a couple of eggs. But Eric's approach to cooking eggs was very different from your approach to cooking eggs. Eric put the eggs on his hand, closed his fingers, and crushed the eggs into his own palm. Then he opened his fingers again, and his hand was glowing red hot. He was literally grilling the eggs on his own hand. They sizzled, they bubbled. The bits of broken eggshell inside them glowed white with heat, and the heat from Eric's hand blasted my face. I had to screw up my eyes, which was just as well because soon little bits of broken eggshell were flying around the room like tiny bullets. I will cook for 3 minutes, he said. No, stop! You're going to burn the place down. We are being shelled by eggs. Eric turned his hand around so that his palm was pointing down. Then he opened his fingers again. An incinerated egg flopped onto the floor, black and bubbly like a deep-fried bat. It wasn't food, but it was interesting. I said, do it again. And I gave him 2 more eggs. One of those eggs filled up with hot air and then exploded like a hand grenade. They were the last 2 eggs, so I thought I'd see how he went on with toast. Slices of bread caught fire within 5 seconds. The wrapper of the loaf swelled up like a little balloon, then burst into flames and floated around the room like a little lost dragon. I tried them with raisins. They squeal, then they hiss, and then they start to fossilize. That's quite good. Cheese, I tried him with cheese. Cheese went gooey and then dribbled through his fingers like hot lava onto the kitchen floor. I tried him with sugar. Sugar smells like all the sweets you've ever wanted, but then it turns into a kind of horrible, evil super glue. Plastic, don't try it. Plastic smells like poo. Then I tried it with very thinly sliced potato. I thought this might lead to crisps, and it did. I sprinkled some of them with salt and doused them with vinegar, But when I tried to eat them, Eric put his hand up to stop me. Then he poured the crisps into one of the best bowls and handed it to me on a tray. He really is a very polite robot, I thought, as I sat there munching my way through a massive bowl of salt and vinegar. I may not have a laser blasting warbot, but I do seem to have a huge crisp making machine. So that's the end of that section. And I'm completely distracted by your brilliant comments. Do keep them coming in. And I thought what I'd do is I'll read you another little bit from the book, and then I will stop and answer some of the questions if that works for everybody. So here's a bit. I'm going to read you this fabulous page. The drawings are by Stephen Lenton. How cool is this page in this book? It's a very, very, very cool page. And then I'm going to stop and read. So I'm going to read you a little bit. Then I'm going to stop and let you ask some questions. I want to say that this book took me ages to write because I got very, very interested in robots. And when I'm writing a book, I always make like a little scrapbook with all kinds of different things in. This is the scrapbook for the Eric book. This handwriting is not my handwriting. This is the handwriting of my famous and brilliant editor, who is called Sarah Dudman. And she sent me things to stick in my scrapbook as well. So as soon as she knew that I was thinking about robots, she helped me. She started sending things. And here's the scrapbook. And I filled it with wonderful things. And including this, look at this. This is amazing. Okay, you're going to love this. See this? Do you know what this is? This is a robot lawnmower. This is my next door neighbor's robot lawnmower, which they didn't keep. They only had it for a little while. And they called it Herbie the Herbivore. And I used to look at it out of my office window, going around the garden and tucking itself in at night to its recharging shed, like a little hedgehog. I kind of, I got very disturbed by Herbie the Herbivore. So I got very interested in robots. And one thing that every robot scientist that I spoke to a guy called Ben Russell, who helped rebuild Eric. I didn't mention this, but Eric has been rebuilt, and you can go and see him. He's in the National Science Museum. He's in the Science Museum, or sometimes in the National Museum of Scotland. But he's there, and he's glorious. I spoke to robot scientists in America and Japan. They all told me this one story, which is about how robots don't think quite the way that we do. Robots take things literally. It's very hard to define what taking things literally means, but I'll say this. If I took things literally and I said, Liverpool Football Club were going to batter Everton Football Club next Saturday, the robot might think, well, that's very interesting because I thought they were going to play football, but it sounds like some people from Liverpool are going to take some people from Everton to a chip shop and drip them in batter. Why? So robots take things literally. All the robot scientists told me this story. I'm going to tell you a little story. It's quite a quick story. I'm going to tell it very quickly because it is a bit sad, this story. And it's a story from the Brothers Grimm, and it's called The Magic Haddock. And in the story of The Magic Haddock, a fisherman catches a great big fish and thinks, great, I've got a great big fish for my tea. And it's a haddock. But the haddock said, don't cook me for your tea because I am a magic haddock. And I will give you 3 wishes. And the fisherman, well, I know that all these clever people in Barnes listening to this would think, well, first of my 3 wishes would be some extra wishes. But this fisherman had a big wish already in his heart, and it just came out straight away. He said, I wish my son was back from the war. And the magic haddock said, well, actually, it didn't do that because it's a haddock. So it had fins and not thumbs. So I think it kind of went like this. And it said, so he said, when you get home, your son will be back from the war. And he said, the fisherman went, whoa, this is great. I wish we had loads of money. And the haddock went, you've got loads of money. And the fisherman went home thinking, now my son will come home and there'll be loads of money. And I've even got a 3rd wish. Someone said, fish do not have thumbs, but they do have fingers. So true. But when he got home, his son was home and there was lots of money. But his son had come home in a coffin because he had been killed in the war. And there was lots of money because the king had seen him die an heroic death and had given him a big load of money. So that was really, really sad. So robots don't think the way that we do. The fisherman got everything he asked for, but nothing that he really wanted. That's very interesting about robots, okay? And it was very interesting about Eric, because I'm going to read you this bit now. You need to know that this story is set tiny, tiny, tiny bit in the future. So all the buses are driverless buses, and your pizzas will be delivered by little robot pizza ovens that waddle up to your door and knock on your door and give you the pizza. So, and the buses talk to you. So it's a little bit in the future. And remember, Eric is a robot, so Eric takes things literally. Eric takes things literally, which is why when I said, Eric, let's catch the bus, there was a squeal of brakes and a lot of shouting. And at first I couldn't even look. And then I looked around and there was Eric in the middle of the road where he had caught the bus with his bare hands, grabbed hold of it by the bumper. And now he was crouching down with his head back, trying to lift the bus up. I said, Eric, what are you doing? You asked me to catch the bus. It tried to get away, but I caught it. I am your obedient servant. And he yanked on the bus. And I swear it jerked forward. And the next one to speak was the bus. It's a driverless bus. And the bus tried to say, I'm a scheduled driverless service. In the interests of passenger safety, please remove the object from the middle of the road. But because Eric was yanking on the bus and shaking it and pushing it upside down, it came out more like, for safety reasons, please leave the bus. Luckily, there were no passengers on the bus, but there were a lot of people running out of the co-op to see what the noise was about. The woman from the meat counter strode over. She had a meat cleaver sticking out of her pocket of her white overalls. She said, it's that bad robot off the news. No, I said, because Alfie's been trying to keep the robot secret. No, it's not a robot. It's a suit of armor. It's a suit of armor for a school project that we've got to do about the Wars of the Roses. So this isn't a robot. This is a suit of armor. How can it be a suit of armor? Said the woman. It's only got one leg. I forgot to say that Eric's only got one leg. It's only got one leg. So what? I said. Knights of old were in wars, you know. They were constantly chopping each other's arms and legs off. Probably millions of knights only had one leg. Isn't that right, Eric? Eric's my friend. He's inside the suit of armor. The word knight seemed to have triggered some kind of switch in Eric's memory. He suddenly stood very tall. His head swiveled around to look at the woman with the meat cleaver. His eyes flashed, literally. And he said, Varlet. Varlet is an insult used in days of yore by knights of old, and I didn't think it was a good sign that Eric was being rude. Even in an antique way. I said, look, we've got to go. Yes, we ride at dawn, said Eric. Exactly, I said, so we're already late. Hurry up, let's go. And I walked off, hoping he would follow me, which he did as far as the corner of Typhoon Street. A pizza robot was coming the other way. Eric stood right in front of it. The pizza robot said, Scusi, per piacere. Stand aside, Varlet, said Eric. Pizza, I have a pizza for number 32, Typhoon Street. Scusi, is it going to go cold? Aside, Varlet. Is it going to go cold? Aside. Scusi, is it going to go cold? It seemed like Eric was happy to spend the entire day arguing with a pizza oven. I told him to just let the pizza oven get on with its job. I'd stand aside for no man, said Eric. Yeah, but it's not a man. It's an oven, I said. Not yet for any unnatural fiend. There really did seem to be quite a lot of night-related stuff hidden in Eric's memory. A knight does not run from his foe. Different people have got different ideas about how to make the world a better place. You might want to use less plastic and help clean up the ocean. You might want to end global warming. Knights of old wanted to kill dragons and find the Holy Grail. But Eric seemed to have decided that he could make the world a better place by smashing up a pizza oven. I asked you nicely, said the pizza bot. Please get out of the way. Is it going to go cold? An insult, withdraw, or fight like a gentleman. It's not a gentleman, Eric. It's an oven. Withdraw the insult or suffer the consequences. Is it going to go cold? Said the oven. Then Eric reached over into the oven's side pocket and grabbed a garlic baguette. He held the garlic baguette like a sword, stretching one arm behind his back and pointing it at the middle of the robot. He raised the baguette to his face in a kind of salute. I was feeling sorry for this oven by now. It tried to sidle past Eric again, and then Eric whacked it with the garlic bread. And as that garlic bread shattered into a million crumbs, he picked up that little pizza bot and crushed it so hard between his mighty hands that the pizza popped out the top and frisbeed into my arms. Now look what you've done, I bawled, struggling to balance the pizza. What am I supposed to do with this? This was the very first time I'd ever shouted at Eric, and Eric's reaction to being shouted at. He tried to tell me a fish joke. What kind of fish does a robot eat? What kind of fish does a sea monster eat? No, wait, that joke is incorrect. Robots can't cry, but I think maybe getting a fish joke wrong is a robot way of saying, I'm sad. Eric's arms hung down at his side. The blue light of his eyes dimmed. Come on, I said. You can carry the pizza. Let's go and deliver it. It's the least we can do. I pressed the doorbell of number 32. I think Eric had decided that if he just copied everything that I did, then he would be sure of doing the right thing. So when I pressed the doorbell of number 32, he punched the doorbell of number 32. When I pressed the doorbell of number 32, the doorbell chimed. When Eric punched the doorbell of number 32, the doorbell clanged. The lights in the house flashed down and off. Radios blasted out at full volume. Smoke alarms went off up and down the street. Eric's electric fingers seemed to have short-circuited every single appliance in the street. A teenage boy in a big t-shirt with big earphones and his eyes big with fear burst through the door saying, "What's going on?" and looking up and down the street as though he thought there might be a Martian invasion. Pizza, I said, as if this explained everything. Enjoy. Good shot, Eric, because Eric hurled the pizza through the open door. It floated along the hallway and landed neatly on the kitchen table. Good shot, Eric, I said. Thank you, said Eric. Hey, said the boy as I steered Eric away. Hey, yelled the boy as I steered Eric away. I ordered pepperoni. This is tuna. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think we've got like 20 minutes left. So if people, I've got another little thing to read, but if people want to ask questions, I think this is a good time to ask questions. I don't know how that works. How does that work?
That's okay. I've got quite a few questions up here that I can read out for you.
Okay, fantastic.
So our first question, hi Frank, when and why did you decide to become an author, or was it just based on your amazing talents?
No, I had a very specific day. I was in year 6 and all the way through primary school I'd had a really good friend and we used to just sort of chat at the back of the class. And then in year 6 he was off sick for a long time and I just missed him. And all the way through school, we hadn't been bad, but we weren't good at anything. There were kids who were good at football. There were kids who were good at music. There was one boy in my class who was extraordinarily good with his fists and was absolutely terrifying. He was a world-class bully, and we weren't good at anything. And when he was off that day, I just put all the energy I used to put into entertaining my friend Graham into a piece of work. And at the end of the lesson, my teacher collected it. And my teacher collected it and she looked at the piece of work and she looked at me. And she looked at the piece of work and she looked at me. She looked at the whip and she was like, I mean, if I'd gone to the front of the class, crouched down and laid an egg, she could not have been more surprised than she was. And she did this amazing thing. She read it out. She read it out loud and everybody, and there was something magic about hearing somebody else read my words. And I've always thought since then that hearing your work read out is a kind of magical thing. And that's when I started to think words are something you could be good at. The way some people were good with their fists, some people are good with a guitar, some people are good with a football. Words are something you could be good at. So that's when I started to notice words. That's a lovely question. Thank you very much.
Oh, such an inspirational answer. I loved that. We've got a question here. One of my favourite books to this day is Cosmic. Was this based on a real event or was it made from your brilliant imagination?
Okay, well, two things. One is I'm old enough to remember men walking on the moon, and desperately, if anybody's listening with any influence, I still want to be an astronaut so badly. You have no idea how much I still want to be an astronaut. So it was a great way of kind of imagining myself in space, and also a great excuse for talking to astronauts who were very generous. And I spoke to lots of astronauts, and that was fantastic. Amazing. I mean, amazing. I spoke to someone who's walked on the moon. How fantastic is that? But also because one of my son's friends, for those of you who don't know, Cosmic is partly about a boy who has a massive growing spurt and suddenly could pass as a grown-up. And I think all the best stories start with, wouldn't it be great if? Wouldn't it be great if you found a bag of money? Wouldn't it be great if you had a car that could fly? Wouldn't it be great if you were invisible? Wouldn't it be great if you found a great big robot? And I just thought, wouldn't it be great if you were a kid, but you could pass as a grown-up? And this boy, he used to knock at the door and go, "Hi, it's Benedict playing out." And it was like, "Hi, it's Benedict playing out." And then one day, just one day out of the blue, the knock on the door was like, boom, boom, boom. And this giant figure was standing in the doorway going, "Hello, it's Benedict playing out." And it was really terrifying, you know. But he was quite uncomfortable with it. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if you had the chutzpah to pass yourself off as a grown-up? What would you do?
Fabulous. That sounds brilliant. So you mentioned, wouldn't it be great if a car could fly? Which brings us to our next question.
All right, great.
When you were writing the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang books, how much did you base them on the original books and films, or did you take the car that could fly and run with it?
What was wonderful about working on that is that I hadn't realised till I started working on it that there really was a car called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which Ian Fleming, who wrote the original first book of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, had seen as a little boy racing at Brooklands racetrack. And it was just gigantic car, nothing like the lovely little Edwardian car that you see in the film. It was huge. It was built by a crazy guy called Count Louis Zabrowski. And he had a fast car, and he had lots and lots of money. He inherited a huge amount of money and wanted to spend it on fast cars. So he bought a fast car, but it was not fast enough. So he took the engine out. This is in the 1920s, and replaced it with the engine from a Zeppelin, which is an airplane type thing. So this huge car, this huge engine in it, was so loud that all the windows around about shook, and there was a law passed saying it couldn't come into city centres because it was so deafeningly loud. And he raced it at Brooklands. And Brooklands has a track that kind of goes up on the side. So this huge car with this huge engine would go up the side of this bank, and it literally would take off and land again. And so Ian Fleming saw that when he was little, and that's what he wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang about. And the Count crashed that car and nearly died, and nearly killed lots of people in the audience as well, and crawled out of the wreckage. Possibly you might think he might crawl out of the wreckage thinking, I need to be more sensible and maybe get a bus pass or a bike. But no, he came out of that wreckage thinking, I need a bigger car. And he got another car, put an even bigger engine in it, which was called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang 2. And that went even faster. This is the 1920s. These cars were going over 100 miles an hour. And then that crashed, and he just managed to escape with his life, came out thinking, I need a bigger car, and got a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang 3, which is called Babs. And that crashed as well, and he died. All my stories have got sad endings today, haven't they? I'm sorry about
that. How about you? Here's a question that will hopefully not have a sad ending. What's the funniest and unfortunate situation you've ever found yourself in? And that's from Lydia.
Most unfortunate situation?
Yeah, the funniest as well.
I can tell you lots and lots of terribly embarrassing situations. Shall I tell you one really embarrassing situation? Yeah. Once upon a time, long ago, I was working on a film about a famous Norwegian explorer, very, very famous, called Thor Heyerdahl, who sailed across the Pacific on a little raft and was just this amazing hero, but he's quite old. And I used to work with him in the daytime, and then in the evening we might go out for a meal. And on this one particular evening, he said, oh, we're going somewhere very special. And he never told me where we were going. And he was so busy, he was chatting away. And we got to this tiny restaurant. It was in Oslo. It was quite cold. Very, very nice little tiny restaurant. Nice lady met me at the door, and I handed her my coat and followed after Thor, who was in his 80s. He was quite elderly, and he was talking to a big, handsome man. And so I kind of just stood there. Thor forgot to introduce me, walked off, talked to somebody else, And I said, well, I'm working with Tor at the moment. I'm a writer. And he said, oh, that's very interesting. Yes, yes, yes. And I said, and what do you do? And he said, well, I'm the king, which I should probably have known, which was a horrible moment. And then I thought, so that lady that I gave my coat to is, yes, she's the queen. So I gave my coat to the Queen of Norway to hold. That's quite bad, isn't it?
That's amazing. I love that. So we've got another question here. Do you prefer setting stories in the past, present, or future? And what opportunities do these settings provide? And that's from Louia in 6T Edward Bryant School.
Oh, Edward Bryant School. I've been to your school. Your school is a absolutely amazing school. What a great school. And a typically brilliant question. I like setting things in the present. I mean, I like reading about the past and I like thinking about the future. My books tend to be set just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit in the future, but not like science fiction, just because I'm worried that because the world changes so fast that by the time your book publishes, it might be different. So I think driverless buses are just around the corner. And I was very interested in Eric because we think of robots as the future, but Eric would be nearly 100 years old. He'd be 98 years old. So that idea of a very old-fashioned robot was very, very interesting because I think we still think about robots as the future. So I like to think of the present. I like to set things in the real world because I find it amazing. And I like to help share how amazing it is.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we've got time for a few more, I think. Dear Frank, do you ever get writer's block? And if you do, how do you overcome it?
I do. I mean, there are times when it's much, much harder to write than other times. I kind of don't notice it till afterwards. Do you know what I mean? I just get grumpy for a few days, but I still keep turning up to the office. I think you get rid of it by just turning up. I mean, doesn't everybody? This happens to everybody, not just writers. Footballers go off the boil for a while, don't they? They lose their mojo, they lose their form. You've just got to keep turning up to training. It's the same with cooks. Horrifyingly, it must be the same with doctors, which is quite a scary thought. But anyway, we all lose our mojo for a while, but you've just got to have faith that it'll come back.
Brilliant. And we've got, what's the most enjoyable book you've ever read?
Read?
Yeah, read.
Oh, wow, that is a good question. Most enjoyable, because often people ask you your favorite book. I love a book by Edith Nesbit called The Treasure Seekers, just because it's very, very funny on every page. Funny, anything funny is good. But also books that take me to special places. So I love a book called Ring of Bright Water, which is about a fairly remote house in Scotland. And I just like to kind of imagine being in a remote place. That's a beautiful book. But that's a great question. What's the most enjoyable book? Oh, wow. Do you know what I really love? And maybe get someone to read it to you, because it's probably quite hard now. And bits of it are not great, but the good bits are amazing. A book called Three Men in a Boat, which is just about rowing in a boat down the Thames. And it's just so funny. When it's funny, it's really, really funny. There's a bit about getting lost in Hampton Court Maze and another bit about trying to open a tin of pineapple. And it's just funny, really funny.
Brilliant. So we've got another question from Edward Bryant School here. This is from Kira in 6T. Are character names important, and how do you name your characters?
I don't think I'm great at naming characters. I mean, quite often I just try and get fairly ordinary sounding names, because what I like is to set a story in the ordinary world and then bust it open and find out that there's nothing ordinary about the ordinary world. So I try to just use kind of ordinary names, but I do love it when people are brilliant at names. You know, like all the names in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang are great, aren't they? I love Roald Dahl's ability to make up great names. And Edith Nesbit, we were talking about before, her family are called the Bastable Children. How great is that name, by the way? It's very, very hard to make up good names that kind of give you an idea of a character, but don't turn them into cartoons, if you know what I mean. I'd love to know what your favourite character name is. So if you get a chance to tell me, that would be really good.
Oh yes, yeah. Pop your favourite names in the comments.
Yeah.
So we've got in Cosmic. Are any of the characters like you?
In Cosmic?
In Cosmic, yeah. That's from Samantha.
That's a great question, Samantha. Yeah, because they all want to go to space, and so do I. That's the main thing. We just want to go to space. And of course, I'm enormously tall. You probably can't tell from the screen, but I'm a huge, handsome bloke of like nearly 7 foot. No, I'm really small. Uh, so kind of the opposite of those characters, really. I'd like to think it was like Florida, who's very smart, but nobody's noticed. I think that's quite a good thing.
Okay, I reckon we've got probably time for 2 more questions. So we'll do 2 short little questions. One, are you writing a book?
I'm seeing these names go past. Gandalf has come up with a top name. That is a good name. That is a good name. Gandalf is a good name. Bertie Wooster is a great name.
Yes.
Lyra Silvertongue, another great name. Sorry, go on. What's the next question?
No, that's okay. So it was, are you writing a book at the moment?
I am. Have we got it here? Yes. I was writing it until we started, and I'll be writing it as soon as we finish. I like to get a nice big notebook and write in it so that I'm not working on a computer, because computers feel like work. I just write. Please note how scruffy it is, how much crossing out there is. Don't try to be neat when you're writing. Don't try to be neat. Don't worry about the spelling. Just get it down, get it all thrown down. So that's how I write my books. And I have another little notebook to one side, which I put kind of new ideas in, so that it doesn't interfere with the flow.
Fantastic. Oh, we look forward to reading that. So we'll do one final question, then I believe you're going to finish with a little reading for us.
I just wanted to read one more little thing.
Final question. What is your favourite word?
What's my favourite word?
Yeah.
I like saying serendipity.
Oh, serendipity. Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, serendipity is when you're looking for one thing, but you find another. And that's what writing or drawing or baking is like. You set out to do one thing, it turns into something else, but that something else is even more amazing. So you set out looking for buried treasure, but you find something else. I think serendipity is a good way of thinking about life, actually. It's all serendipity. So serendipity.
Amazing. Fabulous. So I think you're going to finish off with a reading for us, aren't you?
Yeah, I wanted to read something from The Astounding Broccoli Boy because I didn't realize someone was talking to me and I hadn't really realized this, but The Astounding Broccoli Boy, which I wrote a few years ago, is about a viral epidemic like the one that you've all been locked down in and living through. And it's very funny. And I hadn't realized that I'd done it. And so much of what's in this book turned out to be right, because there's lockdown and lots of cities are empty. So I thought, because it must be kind of wearing a bit thin now, and you must be fed up if you're not going to school and you kind of wanted to pass out with your friends or anything like that, that it would feel you might be kind of getting bored of the lockdown. So I wanted to read you this bit where it's just ending. You kind of need to know a little bit about it. There are 2 little boys who are kind of the heroes of the epidemic. They've kind of accidentally become the cure, but they've had to run away, and they've been on top of the Shard. Can you imagine this? On top of the tallest building in London. And now they're trying to get down it, and they're being brought down on a crane. And London is so far below them, it just looks like a map. And this is the bit where they're nearly back in London, and they're kind of seeing the world start up again. And I wanted to read it to you because whatever happens and whatever you think about what's happening, soon the world will start up again, and everything will be fine, and your lives will start up again in different ways, and you'll have learned amazing lessons and maybe acquired amazing skills or new types of friendship and learned all kinds of things. That this experience that you've gone through is a huge experience that hardly anybody in our history has gone through, and you are going to take something great out of it, even though you don't know what it is yet. You're going to take some strength, some lesson, some insight that nobody else has had because you've lived through this experience. So I just wanted to read this bit about how it might end. So they're coming down, they've been coming down, they go through clouds so that all they can see is cloud, and then they come out of the cloud and they can just see London like a map. And then there came a moment when suddenly we could see things moving again. Cars, a train, boats on the Thames, as though the city had been stopped by some kind of freeze ray, and now it was coming back to life, and it was running to catch up with itself. And my 200% brain saw how much of that running was done by heroes, by firefighters putting out fires, ambulances chasing through traffic, doctors and nurses saving lives, bin men emptying smelly bins, mums and dads looking after their kids, Young people looking after old people helping young people. Heroes were everywhere. When you think about it, a city is nothing but heroes. Heroism is everywhere. Heroism is the petrol that makes a city go. A few minutes later, we could hear noises, ships' horns, traffic, and last of all, cheers, because it turned out that our dramatic descent was being streamed live on the internet. People had been tweeting and texting about us, and now there were hundreds of people jammed onto the pavement, waiting to see us land. And when they could see our faces, they cheered. And Tommy leaned out so he could see better. I said, Tommy Lee, don't. We're almost on the ground, he said. No, we're 5 floors up. It doesn't look much to us, but it's enough to smash us to pieces. But he jumped up and he struck his hero pose. And I got up and did the same. So I think you've all been heroes, whether you wanted to or not, during this lockdown. Carry on being heroes. Take your heroism with you. Everybody's King Kong. Thank you very much. That's it.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much. I think everyone, a massive round of applause for Frank Cottrell-Boyce.
Someone called me Franny. No one calls me Franny. I'm very happy to be called Franny. Joe Sweet. Thank you.
I like that. So yeah, amazing event. Yeah, I think we've got some fantastic content over the weekend. So do have a look on our website and sign up for a few events. Thank you again for joining us. Frank Cottrell-Boyce and me, Suzanne Curley, and the Barnes Children's Literature Festival.
Let me know on Twitter if you buy the book and I'll send you a book plate. Okay, bye.
Bye.